And welcome to Freshly Grounded, the brand new podcast.
Well, it's not exactly brand new anymore, is it?
Welcome to Freshly Grounded, the podcast.
That's better.
Created by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Huh?
I said welcome to Freshly Grounded.
After that bit.
Created by
After that bit.
best friends Faisal and Sam.
Really?
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Freshly Grounded. Everybody, it's a solo episode today. It's a one-man episode. And I know these episodes are generally not done often. I don't often do a one-person episode, and it's because they're not as interesting to people, I don't think. I think they're interesting, but obviously I'm going to like the sound of my own voice. But we try and do these episodes very rarely. In fact, I haven't done an episode by myself in years. I think the last time I remember doing an episode by myself was in Canalot Studios. So that was our old office where we were sitting on the grey sofa. We didn't have a studio that time because we'd given up that studio, and so we were just literally sitting on a Feed Source La Flavor studio, which is Omar's company. We were sitting there sofa. So that was like one of the last times I'd done one, and yeah, we don't do one often, but I thought it'd be nice. I thought let's switch it up, and I've got like the next 2 weeks worth of episodes already scheduled in. I've got people coming in. I thought it'd be nice to do one on our own, but not just on my own, but to interact with you guys and answer your guys' questions, because a lot's changed since the last one-man episode, and I thought it'd be nice to interact with you and your questions, and so we asked you guys to send questions in, kind of related to what you're interested in or where you think that you can get value in having a conversation with me, even though it's like a one-sided conversation. And we got some great questions, and so I thought let's get into the episode. Let's sit down and let's just talk about the questions that you guys have, and hopefully you guys can get some value out of it, and hopefully it'll be a half decent episode. Do you know what I mean? So that's my coffee done. So we're raring to go now. Let's get straight into it, and then hopefully we can get some value, some val. Okay, first question. He says, I'm a one-man band. There's so much I want to do, but I physically don't have time. And I had a few questions like this, which were basically like how to start a podcast, and I'm at home or by myself or on a low budget, or some people asking for like other kind of smaller businesses, other small businesses to start with like a low budget or with like low resources, like i.e. people. So I thought I'd answer that one. So the simple answer is tools, right? There's so many amazing digital tools that exist that you can use that will really help you automate a lot of the stuff that you do. And I'll run you through some of the tools that we use. So at Freshly Grounded, we use a tool called Buffer. What Buffer does is it schedules our Instagram posts, and it actually posts them as well. So we don't sit there manually pressing post on Instagram. We have our editor edit up clips from our each like individual show. Like he knows that he does, for example, 3 clips from a podcast, 2 clips from current events, 1 clip from a dad's dunya and stuff like that. So he's got his schedule, and he uploads these videos for us to, and then we review them, and then they go on Buffer. Like if they pass our review, they go on Buffer and they just get scheduled. So in Ramadan, for example, I knew that we were expecting our baby, and I'm normally the guy who does scheduling, to be honest. And so I scheduled the whole month in advance, pretty much, for Ramadan. So I didn't really have to do any social media work. So that anything you pretty much saw on Instagram in Ramadan was pretty much done via a computer by using Buffer. So that's one way you can save a lot of time. That's a tool you can use to your advantage if you're one person trying to run a business. You don't need a social media person. And you don't need to like manually post things. You're trying to basically save time, and Buffer is a great way of doing that. Other tools that we use is are stuff like Otter. So otter.ai, that's OTTER.ai. We use Otter for subtitling. So sometimes you'll see on our videos there'll be like some subtitle like errors or mistakes. Not often, because we can manually edit them, but sometimes something might slip through the ranks, and that's because we use Otter. It's amazing. once you make your clip or your podcast or your audio or whatever, you can upload it to Otter. And there's another one we used to use in the past, but Otter ended up being cheaper. And it's the same with Buffer. We used to use one called Sked Social, and that was like £15 a month. And Buffer's free, and Otter is, I think, something like £10 a month. So that's another thing that you can do if you're doing something that requires subtitling. We use Otter for that. I think another great way of using tools and saving money on resources, especially in the early stages, is templates. Use as many templates as you can. If you can't hire nowadays, design is content, and we spoke about this on the podcast with Omar. But if in any brand that you have, any business that you have, you're going to need design work done, and you can either do it yourself, is option one, if you're good at it. Option two is to hire somebody else to do it. And there's a third option, which is to kind of use digital assets and templates that exist online. And there's some great websites for it. And so your ideal scenario really is option two, is to hire somebody to do it. But if you're starting out and you don't have the resources to get someone to do it and create custom stuff for you, there's amazing resources that exist online where you can create industry standard digital assets like Instagram posts, Instagram story posts, thumbnails, posters. So stuff like Canva is a great one. I know brands that like are fully run off of Canva. There's one called Graphic River, Freepik, FREEPIK. We use that one a lot, and stuff like that. What I would say is, if you're the type of person who's saying I'm a one-man band, you're probably a bit of a jack of all trades, and that's amazing, because if you are a jack of all trades, that will be helpful, because you can kind of get away with doing little bits of things and then getting help from digital digital tools like Canva. So I would consider myself a bit of not a one-trick pony, a bit of a jack of all trades. I'm not great at anything, and I'm fairly good at most things digitally. And so while I wouldn't be able to design a great poster, I can download great templates and edit them, right? Using Photoshop and stuff like that. So I'd say if you're not already, get acquainted with tools like whether it's Photoshop, Illustrator, Sketch, or whatever you use to design, or whatever templates you get, and then you could just kind of mess with things. And the same for video. So for video, you can do the same with Video Hive. Even our current intro that you guys saw at the beginning of this show, that's a template from Video Hive, which I bought, and replaced all the images and the audio myself, and you can't really tell the difference. And it's something that's the template of it is pre-made for you, so it's industry standard, it's something that's acceptable, and then you kind of just change things within it. So use tools to your advantage is the long story short. I know that was a bit of a long answer, but I am planning to give long answers to all of these questions today, because we're going to hopefully give some detailed responses. I can't think of... So Fiverr is another good asset. Fiverr, Fiverr. Loads of people use Fiverr. We've used Fiverr in the past for voiceover work. You can get really professional voiceovers done for 30 quid. Your options with these things, sometimes we make things more difficult for ourselves. We think, unless I get a full-time graphic designer, which is going to cost me in my business £2,000 a month minimum, if I want someone good, digital people can cost anywhere up to £5,000, £6,000, £7,000, £8,000 a month. So I can't afford that. So I got to deal with bad graphics. That's not necessarily the case. These same guys who charge £5,000-6,000 a month are the same guys who create digital assets and templates online, because that's another way for them to get paid with residual income. So they upload their templates to sites like Theme Forest or Freepik or stuff like that. And they make money every time you download it, but instead of paying £8,000 a month, you're paying £30 for a template, which of course is not the cheapest thing, and it doesn't make sense long term. But if you're just starting out, you save a lot of more money by just paying for individual templates and stuff, and you can still output great quality of work. So that's what I would recommend. I'm just trying to think of other tools that there might be available. I actually saved a Twitter thread recently. It'll be on my phone. where somebody else is giving great digital assets. I think it was like a 12-year-old like tech like genius. Yeah. So there's he did. So other tools, testimonial. So that's testimony.al, and that collects video testimonials from your clients. Feathericons.com gives you open source icons. It's free forever, and it gives you great icons for like your website, posters, stuff like that. Figma is a great collaborative interface design tool. A lot of these are free as well, or have free versions. Fontflipper.com previews 800 plus Google fonts on top of your own designs. Yeah, there's quite a lot. Also stuff like if you want to create a website, you can use stuff like Squarespace and all of those kind of sites. You know, they're made for stuff like this. And also don't expect like don't ask too much of yourself. There's people who are making a killing on websites like Etsy, and sometimes you think, I want to have my own site. I want to market everything myself because that's what's best for my brand. But at the beginning, what might be best for your brand is going on a site like Etsy. One of the great things about a site like Etsy, which by the way today I found out is buying Depop for I think 1.6. Was it billion or million? I can't remember. I actually saved the post. Let's have a look. 1.6 billion. That's insane. Sometimes using something like Etsy is a lot better. If I was starting out for the first time and I was selling a digital or physical product, and I had no way of marketing it, I would definitely do it on Etsy as opposed to my own site. You would think that maybe Etsy might look a bit what's the word, like unprofessional, and having your own site will look a lot better. But one great thing about Etsy is that it promotes your work for you. If people search what you're creating, there's a higher chance of you getting a sale because there's so much traffic going to a site like Etsy as opposed to traffic going to your own website and then you having to market that website. So that makes a lot of sense. And eventually once you build a following, you can build your own website there. You're really looking to just create an MVP, which is a minimum viable product. And the whole thing about a minimum viable product, I hope I said that right, is that that you can create a product within weeks, not months. That's the whole point. You want to create a product within weeks, not months. And so when you have a product in mind that you want to create, if you are taking, if it's something that will take you months, you want to test the waters out in a way that you can do it within weeks. And doing something like selling on Etsy as opposed to creating your site is a perfect way of doing it. Or Shopify. Shopify is amazing. In fact, we actually recently migrated our shop over to Shopify just before Ramadan. We were expecting like a large spike in sales through Ramadan through the Ramadan game, and we wanted to make sure it's something that was reliable, and we used Shopify. And it's weird because going from your own site to a service like Shopify sounds like a backward step, perhaps, because you're going from something that you completely control to like using a digital service. But it just makes so much sense to us. Shopify is doing such an amazing job at working on their own security, at updating regularly. You're using their servers, so you don't have to worry about server speed or servers crashing. And they have all of these tools that you can integrate your website with. So it makes it. Calendly, another great example. I've spoken ad nauseum about Calendly and how much I use it extensively, especially for podcasts, especially in this pandemic. It's been so helpful because we've been doing a lot of digital podcasts and Calendly does so much work for me. When somebody wants to do a podcast episode with me, I send them my Calendly link. They can book in a slot. They can see when I'm available, when I'm not available, and they can book in a slot, and Calendly automatically asks them for their name, their Skype ID, their anything they don't want to talk about on the podcast. It gives them our address if it's a physical podcast. It does so much automatically. It texts them the day before to remind them that they have a podcast tomorrow. It can text them 10 minutes before to tell them to make sure they set up on time. So that's another great example of another tool. So I hope I've done that question justice. I know it took 15 minutes to answer it, but I wanted to make sure I did it right. And let's move on to the next question. How did you go about hiring people? Somebody asked. So hiring people. So Freshly Grounded was my first time really hiring. I did hire with Izaha, but it wasn't really hiring as much as it was like looking for interns or people who wanted to work with me and collaborate with me. So the first time I hired for like actual jobs was in Freshly Grounded, like in like a legit way, and the experience was amazing. So the first person I hired outside of like Sam and I running this was Kareem, who again I've spoken about quite a lot in this podcast before. So with Kareem it's really interesting because I decided in just before pandemic, I think like December 2019, I decided that I wanted to hire someone for the first time, and that person needs to be someone who can help run some of the logistics of the business, like the things that I'm bad at. And so I had just signed a deal for our next event, so I know that I could afford one more person, and that's where I was going to put my money. And I had a conversation with Omar just beforehand, and he said, look, the way you're going to grow is by bringing on people, and not like hoarding money or just try and do this all alone. So when I did, after 3.5 or 4 years, have the ability to hire someone, I wanted to bring on that role. And so I had 2 people in mind for it, and they're the 2 people who every time we do an event, they've been so helpful. Kareem ran the last Freshly Grounded event on the day. He was like, you could call him like a stage manager. And we had another guy called Yusuf. Both events that we've done, he's helped me run them as well. And so I had such a pleasurable time, like in hosting or like putting on a production with these guys, that and they were friends of mine, and we had a good working relationship, that if I was going to bring someone on board, I've already worked with those guys and I know how it works. So it was going to be one of those, and so I just thought I'll ring them both. And Kareem was living in Spain at the time, and I'm sure, maybe one day he'll tell the story. I don't want to like give away his life too much, but Kareem was in Spain, Yusuf was here in London, and I think I rang Yusuf first. I was going to ring them both, so it wasn't a case of like me ringing Yusuf, and if he says yes, like not ring. I can't remember how the whole procedure went, but I believe I rang Yusuf first. Or maybe I spoke to him at the same time. Regardless, I said to Yusuf, I gave him the lowdown, and he said it just wasn't. It's something that he'd love to do long term. He'd love to come work at Fresh Uganda full time, but right now he was building his career in his field where he graduated in, and he had got to a position, and he'd transferred over companies to a company that would be, tough to leave because of the status of that company. And I respected that, and he said he wanted to grow in that company before making like a big career switch. And I spoke to Kareem, and Kareem was very on board. We prayed out istikhara, and Kareem moved his whole life from Spain to the UK in January 2020. And he was on board. Actually, the role was actually like a full-time event manager, I think, actually, not logistics. He was like event manager and logistics. And then pandemic happened, and we haven't put on an event since. And then we have to adapt his role, and he's done such an amazing job. So that was how we hired our first person. Since then, we've hired an editor as well, full-time, and that was interesting because that came to us, like he got in touch with us through email, and then we did some trial stuff, and we were happy with him, and then we started him on probation, where we kind of trialed him, and we paid him for the probation, and that went well, and then we kind of extended it, and then that went well, and then we extended it to eventually full-time, and then he was able to leave his current job and come over to Freshly Grounded. So that's, I suppose, the stories of hiring people that I've experienced. In terms of like lessons I've learned in hiring, the biggest lesson I've learned is to invest in people, invest in your people as much as possible. When you invest in your people, you have to have good working relationships, but also like people what you need people to enjoy what they do, that love what they do and love who they're around. And I don't think businesses do that enough. I was very fortunate that the company that I worked for before I started Freshly Grounded were very generous, and we would get gifts and all sorts of things from the company, and it was really helpful. And so I wanted to carry that culture over to here. And so I try. I'm not the best, but I try and be very generous where possible with things like paternity leave. We don't use the normal standard paternity leave structure that the government give, which is I think 2 weeks. We give a much larger paternity leave to our staff, fully paid, and we ease them back in as well. And I think that's something that I've experienced having both of my kids. And so if I've experienced that and I've been through it, I now know what it's like for our staff. And so I wanted to make sure that was something that, especially when you have your first kid, you feel a bit anxious, and it takes time to ease in, and 2 weeks is just not enough. So things like that, we try and be good to our staff, and hopefully as the company grows, we can carry on doing that, and that's something that's scalable, and I hope that is. And we take a leaf out of Reed, the guy who owns Netflix, I can never remember his name, Reed something, out of his book. He treats his staff seemingly very, very well. They can take as many holidays as they want. There's no limit. They can work from wherever they want. And they paid extremely high salaries. But the cost of it is that he fires very quickly and very easily. And I know that's going to be a cost of, the lifestyle we want to provide our staff at Freshly Grounded. What is the thing that makes you think the way you think? So I wasn't going to answer any personal questions on this episode, because it's meant to be about Freshly Grounded, right? And it's meant to be providing you guys value that hopefully you can take and use in your own projects. But I found this one interesting, and so I am going to answer it, even though it's a bit of a personal question, which I was kind of saving for maybe if I ever do something. I try and save my personal stuff for my own YouTube channel, which I'm obviously very bad at using as well. Bismillah. Okay, the question says, what is the thing that makes you think the way you think? So I was thinking about this and I thought it's worth answering, right? Obviously, I think that the forefront of how I think is controlled by my religion. And so decisions are made a lot easier because I try and consider what religion says about those things. But in terms of how I behave, how I think, how I act, I can see now that I'm older how much of an impact my parents had on that. And so it's almost entirely to do with my parents and my siblings. My older brother, of course, I've spent my whole life working on next to my older brother. We have desks next to each other, Allahumma barik, regardless of the fact that we own separate businesses, but we just want to always remain close to each other. And I think the way I think in business because of him, and I think the way I think in life because of my parents. I'm so grateful now for the way that our parents brought us up, and I'm now instilling that in my children. And I've spoken about this at length on the episode that we did with Raheem Jung, if you want to check that out, about how my parents raised us and some of the stuff that they implemented in us. But just some key takeaways were things like my mum never let us use phrases like "shut up," for example, to each other, to our siblings. And so, not being able to use words like that mean that using swear words are completely out of the picture. And so, we've grown up being never even telling each other to shut up. We were never allowed to roll our eyes. Rolling our eyes was the most disrespectful thing ever. And stuff like that, like listening. A big thing that my mum used to say to us when we were going out is not to behave like animals when we're out. Be respectful. You're out of the house. Not that we were allowed to behave like that inside the house, but present yourself well. And I do remember often people would compliment my mum on us being well-behaved kids, and I believe that that's to do with her parenting skills. And likewise with my dad. My dad's instilled so many great things in us. And like morals, I think like one of the key morals that my dad's instilled in us is that there's things that are more valuable than money. and that's literally almost everything. Almost everything is more valuable than money, like relationships, feelings, health, people's opinions, and all these things that can be bought out. Essentially, you might try and really push yourself to do something because of money, but you're not feeling well, and your health is more important and stuff like that. So I think that's one of the key things that my dad's instilled in us, that money comes and goes. Sorry if you guys can see my eczema. It is getting better, but it's up and down really. And money comes and goes basically. I remember him saying once that I've seen people overnight go from having nothing to being millionaires, and I've seen the opposite also. And when you understand that, I think the best thing you could do is make decisions that don't rely on finances. That doesn't mean go and spend recklessly, but it means that sometimes we think too much about our financial situations when morals should take over. A perfect example could be something like, here's a good example. You're in the hospital. Your wife's given birth, and after birth, you get taken up to the ward, right? You get taken up to the ward. And in that ward, it's like a recovery ward. There's like 6 beds, and all that separates you from someone else is the curtains. And these ladies have their husbands walking in and out as well. And sometimes, the nurses are opening the curtains and stuff. It's not the most private setting. Now, in that scenario, when there's a private room available and it costs like 130 quid for that night, yeah, it's very expensive, but can you put a price on covering your wife's like honor when there's like the husbands of the other wives walking in and this, that, the other? And that's a scenario where I'm talking about scenarios where you have the money, right? But you think, that's not, why would you do that? I don't think you can put a price on that stuff. If you are able to afford to pay for that convenience, it's a no-brainer. Yeah, that's a good example. Thank you very much. What have been your major setbacks in Freshly Grounded? So, major setbacks in Freshly Grounded. I think like the biggest setback we had in Freshly Grounded, may Allah honor him, is when Sam had to start like fizzling out. That was a setback for me because it was never an issue, right? And Sam and I, alhamdulillah, still have a great relationship. I'm actually wearing his company hat right now, highly blessed. We have a great relationship. We still have a great relationship, and it made sense. It was a move that had to be made. And I feel like I keep saying this sentence today, but I've spoken about it at length in previous episodes about how family and business and the speed at which both of those grow sometimes means that you have to like make decisions that you don't want to necessarily have to make, and you have to cut back on things. And I was always understanding of that and very grateful for the time that he had given me and continues to give me in Freshly Grounded as and when he can. But the reason I say that setback was probably one of the most difficult is because for me it changed the narrative of Freshly Grounded. I always wanted Freshly Grounded to be 2 people, me and him, having a laugh on camera. And I didn't want it to be directly related to anything specific, be that religion, business, anything. Just 2 guys who at the time are running 2 separate businesses, because mine was Izaha, his was obviously the various businesses that he runs, but the obvious one being Menspire, and having a laugh, talking about it, and having a break from stress and family and business, and just having a laugh and talking. And it just so happens that we're both, inshallah, practicing Muslims, and so you get that hint lightly without it being forced down your neck. And as I had to do more episodes alone, my only real option was to bring in guests. And as I brought in guests, it naturally has become more religion focused, because the guests and people that I have around me, my network, are like that. And I don't have a problem with that. I'm not ever shy of my religion. But Freshly Grounded took a turn. And it's now it's now different to how I envisioned it and how I wanted it to be. And that's not a bad thing, because that's the path that Allah took me down, and so many beautiful things have come from it. For example, I was so sure that that's all I wanted Freshly Grounded to be. I would never have done another show, and now we've done stuff like Made Halal, which is amazing, and we've done current events, which has given these boys a whole show and a whole brand new audience to Freshly Grounded, and such a fun show to do and to be a part of. And the game, we would have never probably ever done the game, and the game has been a huge success. I could never have predicted that the game would have done that well. Like when we were coming up with the idea, the live events, all of these things. I don't think you grow if you don't break a bit. You know, I was talking to a brother just now that the most common sentiment that we give is your muscles in the gym don't grow unless they break first, right? Like you go into the gym to break the muscles so then a bigger one grows, and so sometimes you go through a tough scenario, but you come out stronger. And that's not to say that like Sam left me in the dark or anything like that, because like we have a great relationship, and it was something that I was always onto him about, and saying like, I know that your time is very valuable, that it's going to be very tough for you, but as and when you can. And like I said, he comes down as and when he can, and he still has a great part of Freshly Grounded. He's still part of it, part of the team, and we speak regularly. But if I'm being honest about something that took a turn, that changed the way we do Freshly Grounded. But alhamdulillah, like I said, it's become what it's become today, and I'm very proud of where it is today. In the past few years, which advice in the episode has been the most life changing? So which advice in an episode has been the most life changing for me? I was thinking about this, and I thought maybe when I answer it on the spot, I'll have an answer, and I don't know. We've done over 230 episodes, had so many different guests on, from like Islamic scholars to people who have gone through the craziest life experiences, close family deaths, prison, reverting, making lots of money, just all these different things. And I can't put my finger on a piece of advice, one specific piece of advice that I thought in an episode that really changed me. I mean, each episode individually is so impactful to me, and in the moment, you know, it's strong. Like episodes that have big impact on me, the obvious ones that come to mind are the first episode we did with Tim Humble. That was just amazing. And you can probably see I was so shy and nervous in that episode, because for me it was such a big thing. The episode we did with Sonny, where he talked about the death of his daughter, was like that whole episode, the camera angle was pretty much on Sonny, and if you saw me in that camera angle, like I was just crying. It was just such a sad episode. But my favorite episodes are the episodes with Sam. My favorite episodes are those ones. How do I think the best way is to grow a business? So I think the best way to grow a business, in my opinion, is word of mouth. Obviously, still, I think everything that we do to market a business is to encourage word of mouth, which encourages sales. There's no greater way of marketing a business than someone you trust telling you should get this, or someone saying I've got this. So a perfect example is if somebody around me was having a baby, and me saying to them, listen, when you need the car seat I've got is amazing, just like get this one, it saves you the hassle of having to look or compare, just get this one. That's word of mouth, and that's so strong. It's probably the strongest form of marketing. But when we are marketing or pushing our business out, all we're doing is trying to get somebody, other people to wave the flag of our businesses. And so when I do consulting with brands, I do some consulting with Muslim owners and Muslim brands, right? On I'm just looking at the other questions that have come in. I do some consulting on branding for to Muslim owners, and the real goal is is to get your brand to the level where people talk about it, because when people talk about it, that's when it really does wonders for you. So the best way of going in business, word of mouth. Figure out how people who trust other people will talk about your brand to those people. How can a young Muslim be successful and not get consumed by lifestyle? This is a discussion that we have a lot amongst the brothers. We talk about how, is there anyone who's like really successful and attributes all of their success to Islam, right? And I'm sure there are loads, but often when you think of loads of like Muslim business people and stuff, you don't automatically associate them with the religion. And we were wondering why. And we were saying like, does the dunya get distracted? We know that the dunya can distract you, like it's told to us in the Quran and stuff. So, but we were trying to like untangle that, and we were unable to. Obviously, you'd have to know every successful Muslim and then analyze them to know. But a young Muslim to be successful and not get consumed by lifestyle, I think the obvious ones are to make dua and stuff like that you don't let it get to your head. But I think you have to force yourself to constantly do things that are uncomfortable. And I wish I could take that advice on more as well. And we know what the right thing is to do because it's written for us. And that's stuff like giving away wealth, and knowing that it comes from Allah and that it increases your wealth to give more away, to stick to your morals, to question some of your financial decisions. Like if you haven't had an increase in wealth and your sadaqah hasn't increased, or like you have debts but you're not paying off your debts, but you are buying yourself more clothes and stuff, it's a sticky one. And you know what? Finance is something that really, really, really intrigues me. I love talking about finance, considering I never had an interest in it growing up. I've never studied it. I don't research it too much, but I'm really intrigued by it. And I think the reason I'm intrigued by finance is because everybody has a relationship with finances, right? No matter how much money you have or how much you don't have, you have a relationship with money because you have to. And that's what I find so interesting. And I think that when I got like a financial awakening in my early 20s, just a few years back, when I realized that the way I'm managing money and my money habits are really bad and that I need to fix up, otherwise I'm going to just cause myself issues. I need to start budgeting. I need to start using spreadsheets. And so since then, it's like when you discover Islam for the first time, you just want to give da'wah to everyone. And it was like I realized that you can get control of your finances. And the thing that I've mentioned so many times that really changed things was listening to Dave Ramsey's baby steps. Things like that, he said like that every pound should have a label on it. These things are mind blowing to me. Or when he said that money's a psychology thing, not a maths thing. If it was a maths thing, we'd all be rich, but it's a psychology thing. If it was just maths, like you just have to do pluses and minuses to figure out how to make money or how much money you should be saving or budgeting. But the problem is that psychologically, we're messed up. You know, we have a bad psychological relationship with money. When we're out and we really want something, it can convince us to buy it, or we can get an interest-free loan on it. And if we can fix that part of our psyche, then we would stick to our budgets and stuff like that. And so in going through that financial awakening, I've started becoming so intrigued about finances, and how people run them. And yeah, I wonder if I was thinking this morning about, like, you know, somebody asked a question. It said like, where's Freshly Grounded in 5 years' time? And I would hope that Freshly Grounded would be more than what it is today. I'd hope that we start creating products for Muslims at mass, right? Like digital products and stuff like that. And that's what I was thinking about this morning. Like, well, I saw an advert on my Instagram for an app, and it's called like Emma Finances or something. And so I was looking at it, because as I said, finances intrigue me now. And it was an app that allows you to budget, right? It's a budgeting app, like so many apps that exist. But it was so on the app, it links to your bank account, and it tells you how much you spend in a month. So it says you spent £500 on clothes this month, spent £300 on eating out, and stuff like that. Which I'm sure there's loads of apps. Because I know other apps like Yolt, maybe even that bank app that a lot of people use. What is it called? Monzo. I think even Monzo's app tells you that kind of stuff. So, yeah, but it was more of a budgeting app. So it's like converting your spreadsheet to an app. You can set budgets for your money for the month and stuff like that. And so I was finding all this interesting. I was thinking, I might try this out. I was looking at their features, and then on one of their features is that you can take out a loan with them and stuff, or something like that, and then you can to help pay off your debts and stuff, like low interest rates and stuff. And it just made me think, like, okay, so even what it almost seems like what their service is helping you. No, what their service is like providing loans and making money like that, but it's like done in a way where, I don't know, like you're captured in by wanting to budget, and then like you use it. And so I started thinking, imagine if there was an app like that for Muslims, and takes Muslim finances into account, and isn't trying to leverage off of their users by like getting like upsells, which generally there's nothing wrong with upselling, right? Like obviously we don't believe in interest, but generally as a concept there's nothing wrong with upselling. But I was thinking, what if there's stuff like that catered towards Muslims? Is there a market for it? Is there a niche for it? I don't know, but maybe I'd like to be able to set up or create digital products that like entwine with a Muslim's life, because the thing I was thinking is there's two reasons people would use your product. This is not. I'm not saying this is true. This is what was going on in my head. I might be wrong, but I was thinking there's two reasons people would use your product regularly, right? One is if you incorporate it into their life, so they need your product because it's embedded now into their life. An example for me is like coffee. Like I have to have a coffee in the mornings. It's now embedded in my life. So now I'm a lifelong customer to, coffee. Unless I change that habit, unless I break the habit, which I'm not planning to, right? So now it's incorporated in my life. Another thing that's incorporated in my life is for example using spreadsheets to do my finances. So every month I'm going to open up my spreadsheet and do my finances, and so that's incorporated in my life on a monthly basis. So one of the ways, and one of the best ways that for to get loads of users on your product is to create a product that it's now part of their life. It's incorporated in their life. Like in order for them to continue living how they want to live, they need your product. It's a part. It's like a stepping stone. I'm trying to think of better examples though. You're probably screaming at the screen. What's a good product? What's a good product that right now is... okay, it's like... I don't want to say social media. That's like a cop-out. A perfect example is a phone. Like a phone. It's a part of your life. It's how you do business, it's how you manage your emails, it's how you set your alarms. It's incorporated in your life now. Take the phone away and there's no chance that you wouldn't buy another phone. You wouldn't be able to last a day. Like, even if you were struggling financially, like, how am I supposed to do anything without a phone? How am I supposed to set an alarm? How am I supposed to use a torch? How am I supposed to listen to a podcast? You do everything on your phone. It's incorporated in your life. So we can either create a product that's incorporated in your life. So that could be an app. It could be anything. Or another way you can get people to use your product is enticing users by giving them value. And value for the most part is financial, or it's not financial, but it's the easiest way to measure value, isn't it? That's how value is measured in the world, really. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Generally, value is measured financially. As Muslims, we should measure value differently, but it's nothing wrong with us being able to understand finances and put a value to it, right? So, or hopefully there's not. And so, creating a product that increases someone's finances, or helps them save, or helps them make money, or that's why Skillshare and stuff do so well, because you're not really teaching somebody a skill, you're teaching somebody how to make money, and the skill is what does that. So that's a great way of doing product. And I thought, if they're the two ways to onboard users, I don't know, then my thought stopped, because I'm not saying like I want to create a product to just onboard mass amount of users, but it was just one of those thoughts that I was having. And the reason I had the thought is because I was reading my Morning Brew. So if you guys aren't subscribed, it's really good. There's a newsletter. There's 2 newsletters that I'm subscribed to that I really am a big fan of. One is called Morning Brew. It's a newsletter you get every morning via email about the latest of what's happening in business. Actually, I think that's where I read the Depop story, and that's probably where the thought started. I was thinking, Depop sold to Etsy for 1.6 billion. That's insane, because Depop, the user experience on Depop was really not great. But all you have to do is make enough noise and get enough users, and as soon as you make enough noise and have enough users, now you're valuable. Sell for 1.6 billion. And I think that's where the thought started from. But Morning Brew is an email newsletter which every day sends you the latest business news, but in a really concise, well written, and humorous, witty way. It's amazing. And then they also have a like a sister newsletter called Retail Brew. So anyone who's in the retail business, be it online or otherwise, if you sign up to Retail Brew, every three times a week, I think, they send you a retail newsletter. So like the latest news in retail. So, that's where I first found out that Amazon were investing in, were starting barbershops and hairdressers and other things. So you get like exclusive news, really good. Right, that's 46 minutes. I said I'd make this a 45-minute episode, so that's that done. Let me know, guys, in the comments how you found it, because people generally, I don't think, are a huge fan of these episodes. That's why I keep them so scarce. I clearly love the sound of my own voice, and I think like the one reason people listen to Freshly Grounded is because of the person that sat opposite me, and so when I'm taking that away, that's probably like a key reason for people not to listen. But let me know in the comments what you think of this kind of episode, if it's something that you'd like to see more often, if there's other type of questions that you'd prefer getting answered, or if it's just not your cup of tea. And if it's not your cup of tea, you'll be happy to hear that we've got 2 great episodes coming up that are scheduled for the next 2 weeks, and I'm really excited about, and then keep it going from there. Thank you so much, guys, for listening to this different episode of Freshly Grounded. I hope I didn't speak too unclearly or too fast. I know that's one of the things that can frustrate people. And with that being said, I will see you next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.